Hello.
Hello.
Hey, sorry, I've just knocked my mic. 1 second. Should be okay. There we go. Oh, give me 1 sec. All right, there we go. How you doing, man?
Great. How are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. I just linked you up your coaching document. Obviously it's
Mm?
been a while since we coached, but glad to see you've progressed and you know you got yourself a new keyboard and felt like you were playing a little bit faster and that sort of thing. And obviously so much will have changed. So I guess a good way to start. I think I really liked your suggestion of like let's overview TvZ, see how deep we get on that.
Mm?
Very easily could spend a whole session on it, and if we finish it in say half the session, then we can just move on to another matchup and look at that. But for now, um, you've got some particular TvZ replays we can look at, yeah?
I don't know if I have any ones where I did a 2-1-1 build. I do have a TVC build video, but it's not one I specifically chose for this session.
No worries. I haven't, has it all been 2-1-1 practice, or what build orders have you been practicing in that matchup?
Um, at first, as I wrote down, I did a different build, like a Hellion opening, I think, with a Liberator, but it was I could not focus on my macro as much as I wanted to because I had to work with the different units or with so many, and
Mm-hmm.
then I guess stuck to the making it simpler theme and decided just do a medevac drop because that's what I'm doing anyway late in the game.
Okay, so we decided to say, look, let's focus on macro after last session. So we changed from, because the other build was like a Hellion drop even, wasn't it? Into Liberator, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. So it was a Hellion drop into Liberator, yeah, which are very micro-centric things. And definitely, I mean, when you're first learning that sort of build, it's kind of funky because you inevitably either focus hard on using the harassment correctly and miss macroing quite badly, or you don't really get much out of the harassment at all and you
Mm.
can still macro quite well. It's definitely something that you can get better at over time. It's always going to be a little bit more imperfect, but that's fine. Hellion drop into Liberator, complex build into a simpler and more consistent 2-1-1. And we focused on the macro side as we could. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm shooting you an invite to party, so I'll promote you to leader. Let's just grab. So you've got a replay of you doing the 2-1-1 then, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So guys in chat, you guys can let me know the level's a bit better now. It should be. Let me know. Let me know. Ooh.
Okay.
I'm super quiet actually. There we go. There we go. All right. Awesome. Um. Have you this is it's a pretty rare mechanic, but did you actually end up using the caps lock dumping key at all?
I do use it, but mostly only for getting SCVs out of my control group.
Cool.
And also for medevacs, but it's kind of hard to do, I think. So I'm very slow with that.
It's like hard to select the medevacs or
Yes, and when I want to put the rest of the units back, I have like from muscle memory, I press control left click and then I have the medevacs back in. Sometimes at least because they are still on my screen, the drop medevacs.
Oh, wait. So after so you say you've got a bunch of bio medevac, you fill up 2 medevacs, you fly them away, and you press caps
Yes.
lock to steal them off the control group, and then are you saying you control click your medevacs and your bio, or you box them all, and then you go control 1 again? Is that what's happening, or is it just you
Yes.
happen to control click them to move them?
I control to click the medevacs that are not dropping medevacs, and then the dropping medevacs get selected. But it's, yeah, not all the time, just sometimes.
You don't. I just want to double check. You don't know. You don't actually need to reconfirm the control group afterwards, right? So, like after you've done the caps lock, like you don't need to remake, say, army group number 1. Like there's no need for that. So, so if you go control
Actually,
click on your medevacs,
yeah.
is it just because you're trying to tell them to move somewhere usually, and so sometimes the other guys get caught just in a move command, or are you actually selecting those medevacs with a control click specifically to remake your army group number 1?
I think I do it because I'm kind of unsure if the rest, or if all my army is still on the
Command
1
center has been
hotkey.
upgraded.
But I think that's just because I'm not confident enough, I guess, that my control group is still working. So I just double check, I guess, by reaffirming it, even though everything is already on it.
Yeah,
That
okay.
might be what's happening.
Well, that's
So,
just one of those kind of funny things, because you just got to remember the whole point of the dumping key is like you just press
yes.
caps lock, don't press anything else, and you know if we've done it properly, it should just sort itself out. So yeah, definitely try
Yes.
to make sure we break that little habit when using dumping key.
Add-on
Don't
is
need
up and
to
running.
remake hotkey.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of funny, right? Because it's this thing where it's like, for some reason where, you know, we'll do that where we're like, oh, I'm not sure if it's this. I'll do it again to double check. Which kind of defeats the purpose of the mechanic in the first place. But it's especially funny because this
Yes.
happens a lot where you're doing that and then you accidentally grab the drop and bring it back to your army or something like that. And then 30 seconds later,
Add-on
you go to
complete.
micro your drop in and you're like, wait, where is it? And you've got 2 full
Yeah.
medevacs just flying around in your army and you're like, oh, what? How did that even happen? You know, I do that with F2. that's my problem. It's whenever I get a bit too F2 addicted.
Command center has been upgraded.
So in terms of this, okay, so you've been focusing on a 2-on-1. So 2-on-1 is amazing as a build which teaches us good marine medevac control. It can go into some really strong follow-up attack timings, or it can go into a macro game. What we generally find is if a Zerg is very good at microing their Queen Ling, getting out their early creep spread, and building up a good mineral economy, they can swamp over us and get like a little bit ahead to the point where we can feel a bit behind. That being said, I feel like that's kind of just Zerg in general. People just feel a little bit more like it's more drastic sometimes when they're doing a 2-1-1, but I think we can offset that through good usage of our Marines. So I'm very happy for you to be doing this build. There will be the odd occasion where we micro pretty damn well for our level, but our opponent is just in position and well prepared, and it doesn't go well for us at all. And that's fine. So when that happens, we'll just kind of go, well, this was a game where it didn't work out. And that's fine, that's that. Okay, so let's take a look at this game. So one thing which we missed in this game was scouting for an all-in. So we did a good job of blocking the third base, which is nice. But you really don't want to lose the Reaper with that, because ideally we do want to check for a Bane Bust or a Ravager all-in at about 320. So just a few seconds before Ling speed finishes, maybe 315. This is normally where I would back off with the Reaper, and I would try to go down. You see where I'm signaling? And I would try to jump into the main base. Can you see my signals? Just go to everyone's camera.
I think,
if
yeah.
you can't. Now can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
There we go. So I just try to do a loop through the main and preferably down the natural as well. So if there's like already a Baneling Nest or a Roach Warren, you know, halfway done at this point, it's like, oh shit, this could be a big scary attack, right? And that just obviously gives us a bit of warning. The other thing here is these Marines all sitting on the low ground is really risky. So 2-on-1 replay Acropolis. So if Reaper can pull back at 315 and do a scout of main natural from jumping ledge to spot all in, it is nice. If that's rare, you can just keep committing, right? Like you did in this game, to denying the third. Because that annoys him. That messes up our opponent's build. In this game, he's on 600 minerals, right? So it's a win in this game. If you start getting all in a lot, though, you start facing a lot of these cheesy Zergs doing these fast Ravager-ling or Baneling to bust timings, we'll just kind of switch up that focus, all right? So always remembering, it's not just about choosing one thing and doing it every game. It's like, hey, let's adjust based on the meta. Yep.
Would them not the Zerg not getting a third base not indicate an all-in?
Not necessarily, because sometimes you just see someone go like just lair and evos and just go like literally 1-1 upgrade roaches.
Okay.
It's also something where sometimes the Zerg is just really bad at macro. Like sometimes they just take their gas a bit earlier and then they just take a third at like 345 or something, or 340, and then yeah. In this game as well, you don't actually know he took the third, so that could have been a fake this whole time, right? The drone's coming up with the queen and the lings to try to take it. You don't actually know for sure. Yeah, the thing with the third is actually just a production facility. So most Baneling busts, most Ravagerlings will actually benefit from having a third hatchery producing more Zerglings to attack. So remember, that's a production facility. So as nice as it is to see that, it doesn't tell us everything. It's just one piece of the puzzle. Marines shouldn't go all the way down to the natural. Try to hug the ramp. Now, this is something which is an interesting thing. Why? Because what if Lings snipe your depots? Your depot builders, right? If you're trying to build your wall. Okay, so this is something where there's a balance there. You know, basically sometimes it's okay to go down with your Marines. Sometimes it's very risky. Sometimes you kind of sit in your mineral line or something where you can't get it surrounded. You just got to be very wary of the fact that, you know, if you do lose, say even if you trade evenly, say that you kill 20 Zerglings, but they kill your first 10 Marines, it's way better for the Zerg player, because then like our Medivacs, our Stim, everything we've committed to is not worth anything. Like we don't mind that trade if we've got a fast third command center and double engineering bay on the way, because we're like, well, we're getting mad economy and upgrades. Like we don't care about, you know, trading army evenly. It's fine, whatever, you know. In this area, a situation that we're basically doing a tech push, right? Stim is the tech, Medivacs are the tech. So we need the Marines to make that worthwhile. So just do be wary with your Marines. You know, balance the risk based on what your Reaper sees. Keep them clumped up, and ready to get in a tight space where they can't be surrounded. Just something to be aware of. Yep.
Should I put down a bunker or just let them sit in a spot where they can't get surrounded, like you said?
I think just in a spot where they can't be surrounded is usually quite fine. If you want, you know, a bunker for safety, you can do it. It seems like you build a bunker as just part of your build here. So do you just always build your bunker to finish the wall off here? What's the trigger for this bunker?
I think in this case I built it because it was not going to
Add-on is up and running.
be a nice war if I build a depot. But I think if I put the depot one up and then the next one, it's a full war.
Yeah, you could have just done
Normally,
that with the depots, yeah.
The only reason I build a bunker versus Zerg is when I either see some kind of circling big attack, right? Or I lose my Reaper early.
Research complete.
So I don't think it was the Reaper this time.
Add-on complete.
I think should we go a bunker, we can just answer the same thing. Also based on the meta, right? Because even if it looks like someone's playing macro, if they then just flood 30 Zerglings, they can get us around and ruin your Marines. But if you're in a nice tight corner, especially if you're in the mineral line where the SCVs can be pulled to buffer, it can be quite nice. So what's important here is, since we didn't focus on this build before, let's quickly talk about your follow-up. Let's ignore the 2-on-1 for now. I see you go straight third command center when you move out. What's the order of your buildings from here? So
it's the same thing after the follow-up from the build before. So command center to engineering base, 2 barracks, and so on.
When do your gases go down in your natural?
In my natural,
Yeah, your third and fourth gas.
right after the, so I get the CC, 2 engineering base, 2 barracks, 2 gases, 2 barracks. I don't know what time it is.
You're already on 2 barracks, so wouldn't you just be building 3 barracks all at once with this build?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Or have you been going
no,
6 barracks by default just because of the old build?
Because of the old build.
Okay, so you still go 6 barracks. Interesting. Which is not terrible, but it is just a little bit different because normally we do it as 5 barracks, but it's not like there's a specific reason to. You will, if you watch a lot of my coaching with Terrence, talk about me being like, this guy's building a 6 barracks. This just tells me he's not doing things right. You know, he's screwing things up, yada, yada, yada. But that's because it's not planned. With them, it's like super random. With you, it's actually planned and consistent. So I'm like, this is actually fine. So if you want to stick with it, that's fine. Or we can just do all 3 barracks at once. Yeah.
I stuck with it was because I thought it would be a good idea to keep my follow-up the same, even though I have 1 extra barracks, but I didn't think it was a big deal.
Well,
when should I? Where should I cut off the barracks?
We can just make it 3 barracks all at once. Then we can do it that way, just to make it nice and neat, like a normal Terran build. And do you normally, after that, your 3 base production, what do you go for? Do you go second factory? Do we play tanks? What are we playing?
Tanks, always. Then I go a second factory and 2 barracks, with a tech lab for marauders.
All right, 6th and 7th racks with tech labs as the finisher. Okay, cool. And it's very much just biotank. And obviously it's like, well, yeah, technically you could have like a Starport, Liberator, or a Ghost transition after that. But I think normally we'd aim to be finishing. Or
yes,
getting a big advantage on this production, right?
I don't transition, except my opponent is building tons of Ultralists. And most of the time tanks are enough anyway, because they only have Ultralist.
Yeah. Obviously Liberators are very good versus Ultras, but as long as you keep the Ultra count low, especially if you force some fights before Chitinous Plating finishes, it's really good. So this was an interesting little fight here, where we saw Lings and Banes, and we are running really deep on creep. Now, we also saw there's like no queens, right? Just 1 queen. So the medevacs aren't really threatened here. So if you're going to do this sort of engagement, you can just fly your medevacs manually over your marines. But we definitely messed up the macro here, looking for a few more kills.
Yeah,
so,
I did.
I mean, if I look at this... okay, so you could see what you did wrong, right? I just saw it.
I remember the game now. This doesn't happen a lot to me, very rarely.
But you can see the mistake, right? Can you describe to me what went wrong there?
Well, normally, I think the big thing is that when I was pulling back, I think my medevacs, they flew off way too far, and I didn't consider that when I right-click on the other side, that they would run left and right like they did.
Yeah, well the thing is, yeah, that's the point where you clicked on that medevac and it went just barely over the cliff, right? And then they were like, derp, and the Marines running the ring. So it would have been okay. Like it wasn't the cleanest micro, but it would have been completely fine. And then obviously just click that medevac a bit too far. But it was the right technique. You pull back the Marines, you control clicked your medevacs, you tried to fly the medevacs over the Marines, and then you selected the Marines and clicked them on the medevacs. Awesome. You know, that's all the correct techniques, right? If you just select everything and just click on the medevacs will decelerate as they get close to the Marines rather than flying straight over them and smoothly picking them up. This is why a lot of the time, you know, newer players are like, hey, why do my drops look so not fluid, right? they just grab the unit, they grab the transport, tell them to go, and they both like kind of derp onto each other, or they tell just the transport to pick up a unit and like slows down as it gets there. Because the units just automatically will try to come to a halt at their destination. So they've got to kind of decelerate as they come in. Besides that though, I mean the macro looks okay for here. Where's the armory goes down? Cool. Obviously the armory is well timed here with your upgrades. but do you time that? Is it like after I grab my barracks or my gases, then I drop the armory, like, or do you just
No,
kind of look
it's
at where your upgrades are?
when my upgrades are at half, I build the armory. That's the timing on it.
Okay, cool. If you find yourself forgetting that a lot, make sure you have another trigger that just links up with something else, right? Because in a busy game, we don't look at our upgrades, right? This is why even pro Terrans always forget their 1-1. Sorry, their 2-2. When the game gets really hectic and they're trying to fight hard with like drops and stuff to come back. I remember Time doing this versus Maru at BlizzCon, where it was like, oh cool, he's doing really good, but then he was fighting so hard to get back in this game, he just like forgot his 2-2 for ages because his armory didn't go down on time. And this happens so much because pros are like, well, I always remember it. And I'm like, no, you always remember it in a clean game. You don't remember it in a messy game. And it's the exact same problem where they're not linking it to another structure. Whereas for me, right, most of my builds, I'll be like, all right, I'm adding my 4th and 5th barracks, drop the armory right after that. Just to make sure I remember it, right? So like I kind of have checking where the upgrade's at and that as another way of keeping my eye on it. Okay, so we're going up to 6 barracks here, the armory. We've got the 3rd landed. We should always make an orbital, I think, before we land the 3rd, in my opinion. Because you can get, you know, multiple wheels dropping as soon as you get down there. It's also something where you want to have that closer to your 3rd. Having to float that all the way down from the main, it takes forever. So I think try to build that in your natural, if at all possible, okay? I think that extra distance, it also delays you being able to just rally SCVs down, build gases, start setting up your wall. And that's something which is so important, right? Because it allows you to move your APM to the micro, right? The sooner you get all that shit set up, the less time you got to spend in your base on macro. So let's try and remember that. Okay, should we get a bunker? Okay. 3rd CC, closer. We've got a lot of money right now, right?
Complete.
So we should absolutely be having that 2nd factory on the way. The marine production is a little bit slow to start up here. We just queued up 5 marines. Marauder. We don't have... we do have concussive. That's good. But yeah, as you get to this point, we definitely can be queuing a lot more marines each cycle, right? So we're building 2 more barracks, but we've forgotten our 2nd factory, it seems.
I switched it the
there we go. There we go, the factory.
order. Yeah.
It took a while though, and we're not consistently building tanks or marines right now. So we can see your production has been at a standstill for a long time here. Look at that production tab. I have the same problem a lot of the time, where in the mid game, I lose direction a little bit. Sometimes it's important to remind ourselves, like, hey, you've just got to build stuff at this point of the game, so that our 2-2 push is awesome, right? Like we're building a 4th CC. We haven't queued marines in 2 minutes. Now we queue up 5 marines. Yeah, so you got to get used to queuing up way more marines. This is something you got to manually train yourself to do. When you're at 3 base production, you absolutely need to be queuing up so many more marines. As you hit 2 and 3 base production, consciously focus on queuing way more marines. So what's a good way to think of that? 4 marines per reactor. So how long does a marine take? I think it's 18 seconds.
18? Yeah,
18 seconds. So if you do 4 marines per barracks, that's still every 36 seconds you got to clear it up. Sounds like a long time. It's really not that long when you're microing medevacs around. So if you have 4 barracks with reactors, that means you should be building 16 marines a cycle. So sometimes there's different people have different techniques. Sometimes I will just hold down A at the end of my cycle, the end of doing everything else. I spend my money on everything else, and then I'm like, spend all the rest of my money on marines. Even if it means queuing up 10 marines in each barracks, I don't care. Because as long as that happens, and then I can do Terran things, hey, like what you're doing now, you know, drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop, drip. It'd be really annoying. Like your opponent tilted because Terran can do too much. But yeah, even though you did like a decent job of keeping him busy with these drops, because we're not building a lot of units, and we're also not clearing creep. So it's, I mean, luckily his creep's kind of bad, so we've actually got 2 push paths, right? We can kind of just go that way, or we can go that way, top or bottom, because his creep's not great. But we just don't have the marine count. So this is actually one of these armies where, if you have this issue, it's the same issue I have with TvZ, you will struggle very hard versus any Ling Bane player. Because you will find when a fight starts, you actually don't have enough firepower to gun down the Banelings before they connect. Always. Just because you're too far behind on production. I think my computer just had a derpy. No? I accidentally hit the pause key. Never mind. I thought it froze for a second. Yeah, you're just not going to have the firepower. We're on 24 Marines. So let's like really consciously like look back at that point where that started. I think it was about 7:30 is where we started to just like not produce units. Because this is where like, yeah, all the reactors have kicked in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, not all, but 3 reactors have. And we should
The
still
ones
be
that
building
got
a lot
built.
of them. Yeah, the ones that got built indeed. Yeah.
Do I mean, is there a trigger I can create, I guess, so I know when my reactor is finished, or is it just a lot of playing?
If you do all 3 barracks at the same time, rather than 2 and then 2, it's going to be a bit easier because it's all 3 reactors at the same moment. So what you'll find then is like they should always finish at about the same time every game. So the thing is, this is going to come down a lot to your own execution. So it's important for you to find that trigger on your own of like, you're like, oh no, like I'm pretty consistent at my barracks finishing at this time. Like this is the thing where they're always done. But as long as you build all 3 of them at the same time, I think you should just be like, bam, reactor, 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 and it should be okay. And from there, we can ramp up that production pretty damn hard. Because you were doing a lot of kind of drippy droppies around the edges as well, and this is your macro point, and since you've been such a macro-focused player so far, I feel like you still want to continue that path, right? You're still pretty focused on this macro improvement, it seems.
Yes. But
So
the only reason I want to do that is so I can have the units to drop, right?
yeah. So let's try and be a bit more conservative with your marine production. Sorry, marine medevac pressure at this point in the game. So what are we going to focus on instead? Clear creep. Try to focus more on like clearing creep, and if you do some drops, that's like totally fine. Clear creeps, you can multi-drop, but just, you know, prioritize it as second to macro. So you can just find that balance, right? Which will take a bit of practice. When you first deprioritize it to second place, you'll lose medevacs a lot because you're used to it being the primary kind of source of your focus. But we just see here, like, if we look at your camera, so like, okay, we make an orbital, George, watch from your camera. I'm on slow speed, so we can really get in your mind. Orbital, okay, we killed a few Marines, Marauder tank, we made 2 reactors. Okay, we realized some SCVs were following some other SCVs, we put them on the minerals, we transferred some extra ones down to the 3rd. Alright, we're looking at our 1-1, it's not quite ready for 2-2. Okay, let's get 2 more barracks. So, it should usually be the factory, then the 2 barracks, right?
Yes.
So, just a very slight out of order there. It doesn't really matter because we did remember the factory straight away, otherwise I would have kind of gone on about it a little bit more. We want to start our 2-2, but we don't have the gas. Isn't that just typical?
Our SCVs are under
And
fire.
here's the big mistake, right? Here's the big mistake. Obviously, the banelings getting in is a problem. I mean, you should have had your units out there, right? In front of, you know, at least next to the 3rd mineral line. Maybe the mineral line would have still got hit. They should have been there. But the other thing is, even before we noticed that, we already went to our drop and stimmed and started microing it. And it was like, hey, we didn't queue up more Marines there. You know, we didn't queue up enough Marines here. So just one of those little things. We did everything else really well. So what I'm gonna give you a B+ on your macro. Okay. you're hitting the depots well. You've got the production's mostly coming down. The production could be faster as well. I guess that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, try to get that production down ASAP in the early mid game. You know, so you can finish it and focus on just building stuff and microing, right? It's really nice when you get to that point where it's like just build depots, build Marines, build tanks, micro. Build Marines, build tanks, build depots, micro. So that'd be really nice. So obviously this is going to give us a bit of an adrenaline rush. Oh shit, there's banelings there. Hey, we're going to try and do counter damage to these Marines. We're going to move these guys down here. SCV production is halted. We're going to pull back, realizing that can't do anything. We tell that to unload somewhere else. We're scanning elsewhere as well. So, okay, a bit too much focus on that drop in my opinion. Also flying in a very dangerous path. We queue up more SCVs. What are we doing now? I'm trying to figure that out. We've got Okay, we're finishing the wall because we're a bit worried about another follow-up drop. Okay, that makes sense. And now we're microing our drop. So this is the drop. Okay, so it's a real small adjustment. It's not even a big change. I'm not even going to change it to clearing creep as your main focus. You can do whatever the fuck you want with these medevacs and marines. Literally, it's just you're not queuing up units right before you look at them, right? That's all. So if we just had a little bit more of like just build a shit ton of marines, queue up some tanks, queue up some medevacs, then we micro, that would be great. If with this drop, there was no need to scan with this drop, right? So when you pulled back, you could have just said, move, go to everyone's camera. Can you see my signal?
I'm on everyone's camera.
So when you picked up, you could have just said, move there,
Yes.
drop there, right? You could have just queued that straight away and then just been like macro, 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 macro. Instead, we've kind of dropped a scan and we've looked back at this like 2 or 3 times. And now we're kind of actively looking at our drop while it's unloading. We should be doing other things, right? So now we're going to look back at our base. We're looking at our command centers. Yep, we've got an SCV queued on each one. We're going to move a tank down. We're still just not building marines. So it's just one of those things where we've identified, number one, production get up a little bit faster. But the biggest one is we just need to remember to queue up a lot more bio more regularly. And part of that is deprioritizing marine pressure, or almost using, hey, I want to look at my marine drop and do some micro with that. That's almost a trigger for us now, where we say, oh, actually, let's just build more shit. let's build more shit, then I can micro that. And you can even do that off your hotkeys, because you're doing everything else really fine. So it could literally be, as you look at your bio, and you start unloading the medevacs, you're like, tanks, medevacs, queue up a shitload of marines. And that way, if you did that a few times, the difference, if we fast forward to the 10, 11 minute mark, is you would actually have been, in a much stronger army position. You would have had a real scary, monstrous push that could come in right? Yeah. So I think about 11 minutes. Let's go to 11 minutes. I think we'd have probably about 60 marines, maybe more. Instead, we have 24. We're building Thors, which we don't need. Obviously, there's muters, so it's not a bad idea to build some Thors. Did we get a third factory? No. I thought I saw 3 Thors in the production tab for half a second there. I'm blind.
I actually did build 4 Thors by accident. I was not intending to.
Oh, no worries. Okay. Yeah. So if we the thing is, if we think about this in the broad picture, our opponent just built 24 muters at this stage of the game. It's kind of freaking crazy, man.
A little army and little money, I guess.
Yeah, and those muters only have +1 attack. We've got 2/2 kicking in. Like, don't get me wrong, he's got a decent little Ling Bane army, but it is a little Ling Bane army, right? Don't get me wrong, his creep in the middle is great, so we can't push that path. But if we push down one of these other paths, there is an easy push to get in range of one of his 4th bases. If he was playing really well, he would just abandon that base, move to the other side, abandon any base you hit, and move to the other side and just refuse to fight you. And then it would be hard to actually press this advantage. Thankfully for you, most Zerg players are dumb, and they'll come and fight you and try to defend their most exposed base off creep. And, you can just butcher this army. Like, if you have 10 Marauders, you have 10 Marauders, because you're really good on your Marauder production, by the way. Most Terrans aren't, and it's actually more important to have the Marines, but the Marauders are like this amazing unit. If you can get 10 Marauders, this is like the mythical point of TvZ I talk about, which we rarely get to, where if you have 10 Marauders with concussive in front of your Marine tank, like Ling Bane does nothing to it. Because like they all get stuck behind the concussive shelled units. Your tank volleys are crazy. Your Marines are allowed to clump up a lot more because they've got the Marauders providing a shield for them. It's actually like this amazing situation where Ling Bane Muta does great versus Marine tank until there's like 10 Marauders and 180 supply, plus Terran armor, which suddenly does so much better versus Ling Bane because there's just so much ranged firepower that unless the Zerg gets a really good flank or surround, they're not able to get on top of the units. Yeah, we're taking too long to move out here. We had to run SCVs away and stuff, so we're like struggling just to take out base. There's burrowed Zerglings. Please kill that burrowed Zergling. And he's doing, like, this is like such a dumb attack. Like, our opponent's just not spending his money. This is very common. A lot of Zerg players don't spend their money. He was not maxed out, and he just tried to roll Ling Bane in when you weren't looking. So a lot of Zergs will gift us victories through their inability to hold down the Zergling key and inject lava consistently. No macro hatches from our opponent. That's the most important thing for him to do here. And don't get me wrong, that's all of StarCraft, is being gifted victories, right? We all fuck up hundreds and hundreds of times, right? It's just don't expect your opponent to play like Serral. They won't. They'll make thousands of mistakes. But yeah, once we're pushed back at this point, I feel like we've kind of like lost our window to attack. Like by the time we force a fight, he's going to have 3-3. We only have 4 tanks. Normally you'd want to have like 7, 8 tanks, you know, with your 2-2 push preferably. You'd want to be kind of like not having creep at your base, etc., etc. You know, things just get a bit awkward here. It's just so hard to get in range of his base. So I think this is really good because these are all problems I can relate to with like not queuing up enough Marines, getting a little bit distracted and over-focusing on our mid-game drop pressure, where it should really be secondary, you know? Obviously, we lost a bit of momentum with our early 2-1-1, but I think we were still completely fine, even after messing up with those Marines. So something you haven't used this game, which I guess I would suggest here, micro. I wrote your medevac Pluto over the ledge. A really great addition is a Liberator with right after your first 2 medevacs. I find that this is something so many Zergs struggle so hard with. If your double medevac still around being annoying and a Liberator comes in, it's crazy. Do you normally add a 3rd medevac and send it across the map to join up with the 2 medevacs so you can hit 2 places? Or do you go for a Liberator sometimes? Or do you normally just stick with the 2 medevacs?
In theory, I go for a 3rd medevac.
And I think you sent a
forget.
3rd medevac across in this game. It's just your other medevacs were empty by that point.
Yeah.
I guess it was a bit later. Yeah, I mean, in this game you felt a bit nervous because you'd lost the 16 Marines, which is really rough. Cool.
I thought I lost the game after that because I play against a Diamond 1 player a lot, and when I lose my medevac, he's at like 75 drones, and I can't do anything.
Oh yeah, it's the easiest game for Zerg if you lose your both medevacs for sure. Okay, so the other thing is, with that though, I really want to hit home how good a Liberator is there, because we were struggling to get our production up a little bit. The rest of the macro was really quite good. We were struggling to get the production up just a little bit. So if you find you're still struggling, you're floating a lot of minerals consistently, the Liberator is a lot easier to micro than a 3rd medevac, right? Sending a 3rd medevac in the main is great. It can kill a lot of workers. It's also really hard to micro, whereas a Liberator, we all know how easy it is to micro Liberators, right? It's just shift on siege, you know, move it if there's a spore crawler. It causes a big reaction and big damage, and it's hard for them to respond to, especially because usually most of their queens are, you know, trying to chase away your dropships. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I think this has been pretty good so far. Let's fast forward and see what you do in late game. But other than that, is there anything that's popping into your head? Questions or problems, or like what are like the big things that piss you off about the matchup or make you feel like it's unfair or feel like you can't win? Is there anything like that?
I actually played a game where I had a huge bank, and my Zerg opponent was on, I think, 3 bases, and I thought, okay, now I just need to build an army and kill him. And I got kind of, I guess, scared and maybe a bit too confident, and I started clearing his creep because it was on the whole map, kind of like it was like kind of like in this game. And then he built like 10 Ultralisks, and I almost lost the game with a gigantic bank. I mean, I just didn't have the right units to deal with the Ultralisks, but they caught me by surprise because I didn't see a cavern. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Yeah, cavern. Yep.
But unfair, I don't know. It's when I play against better Zergs, I feel like they have double the army that I have, and most of the time my army just gets crushed. And even when I have equal army supply, I guess, a lose fights hard. Probably because I'm not engaging it right, because I guess my tanks are not spread out correctly, or the Marines are not, and sometimes my tanks also unsiege too late.
Yeah.
But Okay, there's one thing. I feel like when I didn't clear creep before I push, that it takes so long for me to get to the Zerg space that at the time I get it, they have whatever they want to deal with my attack.
Yeah. I mean, that's something which is so important. It's why clearing creep is so big. So either creating enough chaos with your drops or actually pushing the creep, or a little bit of both. But yeah, if you don't clear creep, then it's like, and it's just all over the map and there's no paths. Like on this game, it was okay. Because even though the middle was way out of control, the sides were fine. But even this is not great. Even this, you still want to be chopping the head off that creep and trying to push it back a bit. But the problem is, well, you just can't. You can't force a fight. So you need to play mega late game, which we don't want to play. Fuck that shit.
No.
I mean, if you want to and you enjoy it and you like queuing up nukes, it is actually very fun to queue up nukes. But you know, it's not something where you can like force the fight ever. You're just kind of chilling in late game and waiting for the Zerg to kill himself on your planetaries and turrets and tanks and stuff, right? In those games, you need to push on creep and you need to just pre-spread like crazy on creep and push forward really aggressively and force the fight there. And sometimes that will work, especially if you've macroed well enough. I think one of the big things though is like, yeah, did we, you know, actually creep costs a lot of APM from the Zerg, right? So the thing is, if the whole map's covered in creep and they have an equal or bigger army, like these are symptoms of like things not going well enough for us earlier in the game, right? These are not in of themselves. It's like, you know, this is not the situation we're looking for, right? So we're going to try and focus on avoiding those situations. It's good to focus on these because these are at least allow us to look for like, okay, well, is this happening a lot, right? You know, is it we aren't producing out of our Marines? Was this a one-off in that game? I'm sure it's not every game that you produce that poorly. That game just there was pretty bad. I'm sure you have games where you produce better than that. But I also, looking at that, say, I bet that's a habit in that I bet you always do have some gaps in that production, right? I don't know how much. We'll figure that out. But I think that's really interesting to kind of look at because we can say, okay, well, number one, you're gonna have more. Like I also said, number two, if you do want to be very conservative, you can just clear creep with your medevacs and marines. The reason I like the fact that you're still dropping around though is most Zergs are so terrible at defending multi-drops and it really freaks them out and fucks them up quite hard. They just don't split their units up properly, even though they see everything coming a mile away with overlords and creep. And it creates some chaos and usually it pulls their attention away from the creep spread a lot as well. Like the moment you start bouncing between the Zerg mineral lines, it really disturbs their rhythm. Same thing, I'm sure you've played games where someone keeps running Ling Bane into your base, and you're like, fuck, and he just messes everything up and you start to crumble. I think this is the same power of your drops. If you can get them in there without ruining your macro behind it, you know, it's usually well worth it, right? So, yeah, go for it. Keep dropping in stuff where you can. Definitely, it can really mess up their rhythm. But I think that's some good things to focus on. I think that should really help you for now. Where do we want to go from here, mate? We can talk about another matchup and look at some replays quickly. We can find you an opponent quickly. Let's hop out of that replay because I think we found everything we can from it.
Okay.
Where would you like to go? Do you want to review a bit more ZVT, grab another replay of TvZ, play a game quickly, or what do you want to do?
Do you think it's a better idea to change to another
Imperium.
matchup or keep working on the Zerg matchup?
I think
Because-
yeah, I mean, it just comes down to how you feel in the matchups. Like, if you could use some guidance, like, I'm looking at your win rates right now for the current season. And, you know, TVP is the lowest. TvZ is actually your highest right now.
Yeah, it is.
So we could talk about TVP a little. Obviously, they're all pretty close. So it really just comes down to, I mean, we can absolutely talk about another matchup. Look at a replay, come up with some key points. There's always something to learn, even in your best matchup, even in your worst matchup.
Yes,
So,
definitely. I think my worry is that if we switch the matchup, that I might get
might forget some things, right?
yes,
distracted?
or just get distracted, I guess, because
Okay.
I have my thoughts on multiple things.
Okay.
But if you think it's a good idea to get general view on things on every matchup, then I would like to do that.
You know, it does help to just go over a lot, but at the same time, right now, TvZ is the focus. I'd love if we could just do a practice game of TvZ. So I'm putting the word out in Twitch chat. I'm saying Diamond 3 Zerg, EU, chat channel Piggy. I wrote NA in chat, but I meant EU. Chat channel Piggy on EU, guys. Please get in here. Get in here. I am just going to very quickly open my door to get some airflow because it is hot in my room with my lights and my computers on. Doesn't look like there's anyone in chat. I guess Nation Wars is on, so 1 second. Let's see if we can find someone.
Nation was.
Alright, sorry for the wait there.
No problem.
Okay, we've got a Diamond 1 Protoss. Trolling Bob. Coming off race for us, just so we can practice our build. Even though you're not going to be the same level, Trolling Bob, if you're actually happy to come and help us, please do hop in chat channel Piggy on EU. We'll get you to off race even if you don't know what you're doing. As long as you just make some vague attempt at not doing, you know, a 12 pull Baneling bust or something silly like that. So exit, I'll let you just choose your map, host it up, and we'll invite Trolling Bob as soon as he gets in here. Because remember, like, you know, there's little things like just trying to build a bit more of a system around marine production and just having a bit more urgency with our production. This is kind of a good middle ground where we're not quite playing an empty custom game against no opponent. You know, we're not just punching the bag, but we're playing against someone who's going to be lower level or at least weirder level. You know, sometimes an off-race player is actually incredibly good, but they're always going to suck at some things. Like their macro or their creep spread's going to be terrible, you know. There's always going to be something they really lack. So Trolling Bob's hopping on. We'll be here in a second. Trolling Bob, if you don't know how to join chat channels, just click down here and go /join space Piggy. And once you're in there, you can be like, hey, my name's Trolling Bob, and I'm here to play StarCraft. You can say something like that, and it should be good. What else do we have here? Yeah, we're talking about trying to be a little bit safer with some of your stuff, like the marine placement. I think the third command center being closer rather than in the main, especially like on Acropolis, definitely helps. That's definitely one we should try to remember. Yeah, don't be afraid to really once your 5 barracks are up though, 16 marines at a time, dude. It's so weird to queue up 16 marines because you're like, I'm not a Zerg player, but it actually, as we get busier in the game, it does become more and more important. If we want to be active with those marines, clearing creep and stuff, we need to queue up marines to give ourselves more time and more APM.
You said I should put 3 barracks down at the same time instead of 2 times 2. Should that be before or after I put down the refinery?
Did you normally go before you went 2 barracks, then the refineries, then the 2 barracks? Is that how you did it before?
Yes.
Just choose one. I don't know which one's better. We'll have to do it a game and then we'll see. We'll find out after this game. So which one are you going to do? Trolling Bob, can you keep trying to join chat channels, please? You're not showing up at all in there. So EU server, try joining pig, /join pig, pig poop. Try to join /join pig poop. Because you're not showing up in any of these, mate.
Pig poop?
Just creating random chat channels to see what happens. He's like, oh, let me check if I'm on NA or EU. We want to be on EU. Yeah. Is the stream title still TVX Slim Shady? Yeah, it's because we didn't know what matchup we would be doing today. We do now. I'll update it to TvZ. 2-on-1 into the biotank macro machine. That's what we'll call today's coaching. I think that's what it's all about. T-Bob's rocked up. If you can put T-Bob up, put me down, make me a ref if you can. Do you think Bob was just trolling about joining the chat channel? No. StarCraft players are incompetent. No offense to T-Bob. We just all are. We did a newbie stream yesterday and 6 different people all put the wrong replay in. They're like, how do I beat carriers? And it was a replay versus a Terran. And I was like, what are you talking about? How do you guys not know how to upload a replay? It's like, oh, StarCraft players, man. No problem. He's gone Zerg. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right.
All right, good luck. Have fun, mate. I will shut the hell up and just let you get in your rhythm. I may whisper in your ear creepily at one point saying, build more Marines.
All right.
But otherwise, I'll let you do your thing, man. Good luck. Kick some ass. Yeah. StarCraft players are both elitist and incompetent, guys. They are. Whew. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
SCV ready.
No worries, Slim Shady. Thanks for hanging out, Rafe, as well. We did one of your replays yesterday, didn't we, Rafe? I think in the newbie stream. I'm pretty sure we did your replay. You saw it, right? Can't remember if you... I don't think you were here live when we did it. How you doing, Drano? Yeah, this is the usual start time. I just, have been struggling with starting on time, that's all. Thanks, Juggernaut. So yeah, we'd actually it's kind of funny because Exit ended up moving into a 2-1-1. Last time we coached a few months back, there was a Hellion drop in followed up by a Liberator. And he was like, wow, I keep fucking up my macro because there's too much going on. Why aren't we building SCVs right now? Why aren't we killing SCVs straight to 19? What is he doing right now? Why are we not queuing up extra SCVs ahead of time? Alright, so just a bad habit there. You should always queue straight up to 20 SCVs. You're trying to queue them up literally the second the previous SCV finishes. Try to break that habit. Really easy to have a late orbital like you did this game. Even though it's only a few seconds, it adds up.
Okay.
Yeah, this is typical try-hard Terran player. I'm only going to queue up the SCV when the previous one finishes. And I'm like, but you have nothing else you're spending the money on. They're like, but I want to do it. I'm like, no. Bad.
Command center has been upgraded.
NCJ, completely the wrong attitude. That's the perfect time to send in a replay, mate. Too many people get their ego in the way. Oh, it's just rust. You know what helps speed up getting the rust off? Sending a replay and have someone look at some of the basics for you. Missed your opportunity, man. Not to be harsh, but I just wish we would all be more comfortable seeking help. People are like, oh, it's not worth getting coaching or it's not worth asking for help because it's just basics. And it's like, whenever someone says that, I'm like, it usually, in my experience, is indicative of them not analyzing their games that much for those basics. Because the moment you look at those basics, you realize there is actually a lot of complexity even within the basics, and you can always speed up that process by having someone else. I also agree there is some respect with it, where you're saying, I don't want to waste your time at simple stuff. I can sort it out for myself, so I appreciate that. I love you, man. I love everybody who says that and takes their time and says, hey, I'm gonna respect your time. But you should have got one in. Usually, maybe we're going to Home Story Cup in a week, so Hopefully we'll get one in December, but I have no idea when, Jake. I have no idea when. I might just rotate another one in quickly. I mean, this was also a funny newbie stream because I was kind of like angry coaching it. Because there were so many players who were just like, they were kind of like, how do I beat a Terran in late game army comp fights? And well, I guess I was getting angry because people were submitting the wrong replay, but I was also like watching people just like sit in their corner of the map and literally make no plays. And I was like, oh, what? I was like, you need to make plays to win a strategy game. Like, if you don't have a strategy, how can you possibly improve at a strategy game? That's not how strategy games work. You should, you know, have a strategy to start. And obviously that's me being hypercritical. People are like, oh, I do have a strategy. I make these units and I make these units. And I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing with those units? And it felt like almost universally in the replays we looked at yesterday, people had no friggin' idea what they were doing with their units. They were like, I've built them. So I actually think almost everyone who sent in replays yesterday could benefit hugely from playing not quite Florencio style, but maybe like a Bly style or a No Regret style, and learning how to have really decisive plans and then starting to learn preset follow-ups based on what they run into. We forgot the second medevac. I think we didn't quite have the money yesterday. Live game. Winter's Gate. Okay, so first things first. Didn't QSCVs constantly?
We're done with the research.
Missed second medevac.
SCV ready.
Forgot to pull SCV home. He took other
Ready for
third.
dust-off.
No reason for it to chill there. Could have been mining this whole time.
SCV ready.
Oh, you gotta get going, man.
SCV ready.
Why are we building one barracks right now? That don't make no sense. Oh, fucking no! Oh, no. And he didn't even queue them back. Ooh, gross.
SCV ready.
Built one barracks at a time and didn't queue them back to work. Ugh. All three as one action. And queue them back.
Piece of me, boy.
That was
Ready for
gross.
dust off.
That was really gross.
SCV ready.
So what he should have done there, guys, is moved out, waited till he had 450 minerals, and then go on barracks, queue back to minerals. He didn't do that. These SCVs are all going to end up idling. That SCV didn't get queued back either on the command center. So that's a big problem. That's a real big problem,
Base
guys.
is under attack.
These are big fundamentals that should not be screwed up. Why did he just pick that up? He just picked up and left when nothing was coming, while and the hatch was red points. Yeah. This is 100% him being like, fuck, pigs watching. Something like, there's people on stream watching. Medevacs picked up and left despite no defense being there. And hatch being red HP. T-Bob's playing pretty well, guys. He's playing Protoss, so he's realized he can't micro-ling Bane, so he's gone Roaches. That's a smart Protoss player. He's like, I can't play Ling Bane. These units are too small, man. I can't even see them. I'm a Protoss player. See a Protoss player try to play Ling Bane. Gotta get that magnifying glass out. Like, what are these fucking tiny little bugs? Alright, we've got 3 more reactors, 1-1. So we should be ramping up that production real soon. Building depots first, fair enough. I mean, this hatch is just an easy snipe later, I guess, right? So, I mean, it's good he hasn't added his 3-base production. So, better macro. Yeah, factory. Okay, he actually rebuilt it. Yeah, that's better, that's better. Alright, and he's gonna start 2-2. Look at that, he's waiting for the gas. There oh, yeah, this is much better.
Ready for dust off.
Better macro, faster addition of 3-base production. Good.
Nothing left
Where's
in
the
that
gases
mineral
on this
cluster.
3rd base? Gases on the 3rd base are elite. He's not going to be able to get double tank production and keep that going. Can't even afford a vehicle upgrade right now. Yep, pick up. I would actually go drop in the main with that. Yeah, the drop.
Your forces are under attack.
Your forces are under attack. Okay. So he's going to keep dropping here. He's not really clearing creep. There's not much creep to clear though, so it's kind of okay.
SCV ready.
He's got better marine production. This is one of the big things, guys. One of the big things here. He's getting the add-ons all 3 at once.
Fueled up, ready to go. SCV ready. Go, go, go.
Ready for dust off.
16
Add-on.
marines at a time, if not more.
SCV ready.
So we don't need that 4th command center as
Ready for
quickly.
dust off.
It's okay to get it then, but it's just one of those things where marine production has got to take precedence, okay? Usually if you sit there and go, ooh, I've got minerals, let's drop a 4th, what you should be thinking is, ooh, I've got minerals, why the fuck don't I have enough units queued up? Because that's what it means. Right now, more marines need to be queued. Your barracks aren't building already. You need to be spending so many more minerals than that. You don't need any more SCVs. You're already at 75. And you need to be gearing up for that big push. Because your 2-2 will be done in about 30-40 seconds. And if you just keep massing units, add combat shields as well. We forgot shields. So add shields
Okay.
and get ready for that big frontal push. Your tank count will be exploding. We'll be at 7 tanks in about a minute. So we want to start getting ready for that push. Good luck, man. So for him, guys, he should be visualizing right now, where is that push going to go? Where? Also, marine production. He's still... You say often what's happening is he's queuing up marines at the end of
Ready for dust
cycles,
off.
and he was, you know, not quite able to actually queue up that many marines because he was spending most of his money on tanks and medevacs and stuff. So his barracks, even here when I'm telling him about it, they were struggling to actually be constantly producing. So these drops are really bad, right? So
Mineral field depleted.
we kept dropping and A-moving on the sides into his defensive squads. And that's fine because he's focusing on macro, so it's okay to play a bit dumb tactically when you're learning new macro and that's your key goal, right? You're like, well, that's not, you know, that's not my big focus. Obviously, I'm going to be a bit dumb on that stuff because I'm
Upgrade
not
is
thinking
ready
about
for
it.
use.
Okay.
So right now he's doing a push. But like, look at this. He moved through the middle and then he was like, oh, actually, maybe I'll go this way. He hasn't visualized where he's going. He has no clue where he's pushing. So what's he doing right now? I
Research
think he's just
complete.
sent a drop across the other side, which is not bad, even though it's in a ready point medevac. But look at this. He has no idea what he's doing on this. Yeah, okay, this is very common, guys. You've got to visualize your push path minutes beforehand. Clear creep on that path. When we moved out in this game, we pushed halfway through the center, then pulled back and around, and very slowly hit the north of the map. So we've given our opponent so much time. Because if you're forcing the fight and you're at 4k, 1.5k, we hit the 4th
base is
when
under
at
attack.
4k, 1.5k resources unmaxed. We should be forcing this fight well before then.
We're hitting our SCVs.
Preferably before max. Every second at max, he's adding, you know, banelings, infestors, broods, ultras, etc. These are things you gotta worry about, guys. Thankfully, his opponent's broodlords are out of position. Oh my god, Marines should be able to kill those broodlords if he focus fires. He's not focus firing. Oh, because he's looking at home. Ah, it's a shame. He could have killed most of those broods. Oh well. But yeah, basically, his drops weren't doing anything for a long time there, right? His macro was better, but then he just like was like, well, I'm maxed. Maybe I should move out. And I was like, you should have been out there 5 minutes earlier, you know? So this is something where, you know, as a player, you should be like, oh, my 1-1's halfway done. Let's start pushing. So that's something else. Clear creep on that path. When 1-1 is half done, you should already be organizing a push out across the map and getting set up so we're in position on edge of creep / in range of a base as 2-2 finishes. This game, we didn't push out till after 2-2 was finished, then took another 80 seconds to find our way to the position. This is important stuff, guys. It's very common mistakes. He's gonna go do a counter drop. I mean, the tanks are good for keeping back the Roach Hydra. But yeah, his opponent here, T-Bob, is a Diamond 1, and he's off racing, so he's just made a crazy work count stuff. I'm sure he would have had a much harder time with all this if those drops had just gone around the Roaches into the main. If this drop had gone around the Roach Hydra into the back of the natural, actually did some multi-prong dropping, or at least, you know, cleared the creep. And his middle push, if it just went straight through the middle, I think he would have hit pre-Brood Lord. It's obviously a very important time. So what's some scouting you can do there? Scan for Hive / Great Aspire timing. Always aim to hit and force a big fight pre-Brood Lord. Possible.
Our base is under attack.
If we can't, then try to hit their economy as much as possible if they won't fight. Force damage whilst adding... Normally you'd go Vikings, right? I think Vikings. Alright, GG's. Alright, much better Marine production that game. Looked way better. Now obviously T-Bob played very weird. We are out of time, so we've got to finish up. I want you to watch that replay and read through the notes. I think it sums it up pretty well. We maxed out a lot quicker and we had a much better Marine count, dude. To summarize, the big mistakes that happened that game was number 1. We tactically didn't play very well because we were so focused on the macro, which we did a much better job with. So that's good. It's always you're going to play tactically a little bit worse when you're just build my units, get my production down, build my units, get my production down, right? So what happened is he just like split his roaches into like 2 squads and you just kept like moving Marines into them over and over again with your drops, right? Whereas if we dropped around, especially because we knew it was a roach style, if you go drop behind in their mineral lines, they don't have a lot of anti-air, we would have caused a lot more chaos. So he was able to get away with being quite greedy at a few points in that game. You can see that you were way ahead on the army value for large portions of that game. And then he got this insane work account that he decided to go up to. The other thing is when we pushed out too late. So we basically waited until we were like maxed and 2-2 was done. And then we started moving out and we didn't know where we were going. You remember that moment? You moved through the middle, you saw some creep and you're like, wait, where am I going? And then you like pulled back and went all the way around the edge of the map and then hit the north. If you went straight to that north position, I would have been okay with it. I actually think you win that game if you just keep pushing straight through the middle, because you would have hit pre-Brood Lord. Now, you didn't know that, so obviously no shame there, but the key thing to think there is systematically. What is the system that will make sure this doesn't happen in future? Always have your push planned out ahead of time, and push out when your 1-1's halfway done. Like, your 1-1's halfway done, get your army together, get organized, as long as it's the right army. Obviously, if it's like 2 tanks and 8 Marines, don't push out. But assuming, you know, you've got the army, you want to be set up in range of that 4th base or on the edge of creep as 2-2 finishes, right? And that's awesome because what that does is it allows you to force the fight at the ideal time. What happened with you is we pushed out when we wanted to be fighting. And then we went out, and then we took about another minute and a half to actually get in position. And then he just gave up the base. Was like, yeah, I don't need to fight for this. And we're like, ooh. So that army, which was good like 2.5 minutes earlier, is like getting worse every second that goes by, right? Even if it wasn't for Brood Lords. You think about a Ling Bane player, even if they're maxed, they can make like 100 Banelings if we give them enough time, right? Because they don't cost any extra supply. And we're not going to get through 100 Banelings on creep, right? So it's just every second that goes by adds up there. I guarantee you, though, if you visualize that's the base I'm going to aim for, let's push out and start getting sieged up ahead of time, that game looks completely different. You know, we look way better there. So so good stuff, man. Really well played. Macro. As you keep that down and it becomes a default part of your play, you'll be able to play tactically better with your drops, and most importantly, you'll visualize where that push is going to go, and you'll be really tight at pushing out on time. In the past, you might not have been as consistent with when and where you pushed because your Marine production wasn't always there. So sometimes it wouldn't have made sense for you to push. Because your Marine production is going to be more consistent, you're going to find there's going to be a bit more like, oh, I always seem to have a good army at this point. This is actually always a good push timing. So that macro should give us a bit more consistency, and our pushes should feel a lot better because of that.
Right.
We've got a player in chat, Collie SC, who's actually saying, you know, if you want a practice partner, I think Collie SC maybe is about the right level of a Zerg if you guys want to play some games. So hop in Twitch chat if you if you want to find a practice partner there. But otherwise, good stuff, man. Awesome. All right, well, I'll catch you next time. So just hit me up whenever you want to set up the next session. Could be even just 1 week from now. You know, I will be flying away on Wednesday for 1 week, though. So one week from now, basically, I'll be gone for 1 week for Home Story Cup. But we can do it right after that or right before. Just hit me up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, man. Have a good night. Good luck in your practice, dude. All right. I think he looked really good. I think Exit was kicking ass, guys. I hope I didn't go too hard. No, you played great trolling, Bob. I mean, you played like a Protoss player. I was making fun of you as well. I was like, this is a true Protoss player. He's building roaches because he can't microling pain. He wants the big meaty units. No, you played really well, dude. He gave you too much space because he was focusing on his macro. So his drops were just kind of headbutting into your roaches. And like I was saying as I was watching, I was like, well, you know, if I wasn't making him focus so hard on building Marines properly and getting that, because that's like an underlying thing that needs to sit as a layer underneath his play, right? The tactic sits on top because it changes every game. The building Marines doesn't. So we were trying to just get the Marine production down a lot better. So once we got that down, you know, he'll be able to actually drippy drop your mineral lines and abuse the fact that you're defending with a handful of roaches and don't have much else and that sort of stuff. But you played really well, dude. GG's. You earned your victory. Thank you so much for helping us out. We really appreciate it, dude. Thank you for stepping in when we didn't have a Zerg main. It's always good to have an off-race player hop in. And I said it at the start, off-race players are really bad at some things, but they're amazing at other things, you know. They're also unencumbered by knowledge of the matchup, right? So you're just like, you're happy to just be greedy at a certain point. You go, I don't know what's going on in this matchup, man. I'll just do some shit. And if you get away with it, it can pay off big. So that is how we go.